Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Multnomah County Board of Commissioners board briefing. Audience members, I want to start by asking you to please silence your electronic devices. And for those folks who are presenting today, please turn your mic on when you begin speaking so that the green light is showing in the room, and off when you've completed your remarks. For all presenters, please state your name for the record before speaking or responding to questions. Our first briefing this morning is an update on the FY26 to FY28 Multnomah County Strategic Plan. So welcome to Chris Neal and Samuel Ashby, Allison Sachet, Stephanie Graff, who have been working hard for months on this. So as you guys are getting settled in, I just want to appreciate you, Chris, and your team for being here today to give us an update on the countywide strategic plan. The last briefing we had on the strategic plan was in August, if folks remember. I know that there's been a lot of work that's been done, a lot of things that have been accomplished between then and now. As a reminder, this plan, which was funded by the board in our FY25 budget, is our chance to strategically align the work of all departments and continue our direct work to create a one-county approach to providing resources and support to our community. This will be the first countywide strategic plan in many years, and it is a huge opportunity for us to strengthen our culture, connections to community, and most especially our outcomes and impact of this organization. The community has evolved drastically since the last major strategic initiatives, and Multnomah County deserves a plan that will help us grow and change alongside that. As we build toward full implementation of the strategic plan and its performance management systems beginning July 1, this plan, including its focus areas, goals, strategies, and indicators, will inform the development of our fiscal year 27 budget. And with that, Chris, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, I think first off, Christopher Neal, COO, good morning. I think Savannah is actually going to kick everything off, but I guarantee the mic will come back to me at some point. So go ahead, Savannah.
Thank you, Chris. Savannah Graff, she, her pronouns. I'm a Senior Strategic Initiatives Manager in the COO's office on the Spark team. Next slide, please. So here's our agenda for today. We'll start off by opening remarks from Chris Neal, our COO. We'll walk through a strategic plan refresh and then go through some post-briefing milestones from August 26. We will also look at some of the revisions that were made based on those milestones. Then we'll walk through our FY 2027 budget alignment and process calendar, and then we'll end with our implementation plan. Next slide, please.
Okay, so like I said, good morning again. Christopher Neal, COO for the record. First off, as always, I always want to start off by giving appreciation to all the county employees who participated in the development of this plan. We would absolutely not be here today if it weren't for these individuals that are on the screen right now and the many dedicated hours on top of everything else going on, not only at work, but in their lives to help us develop this strategic plan. So to kick things off, first I want to thank the planning teams. So that's the steering committee, my office, specifically the Spark team, and specifically Savannah Graff, who has been the engineer and architect of this entire document. So please give her a high five when we get done here. Or we can do a hand clap too. We can do that. All right. Thank you, sir. As well as the budget office. Let's go to the next slide. These are the cohort members who served as subject matter experts in the strategic focus area and developed our outcomes and the indicators that you've seen already, and we'll breeze through those today as well. Let's keep going. Next slide. And I want to thank the leadership work group participants that helped finalize all the measures that we're going to get into later on today so you can see who these folks are. Let's go to the next slide. I cannot overstate how massive and a collaborative effort and undertaking this was. And we simply would not be here today without the time and expertise of all the names you've seen over the last few slides. Let's go to the next one. Perfect. Over 140 staff members were engaged directly in the development process. And while I'm proud of the product that we are bringing for you today, I'm even more proud of the process that helped us get here. The depth of this plan is a reflection of the breadth and expertise we have in our organization. So to all of the colleagues of mine who offered your time and your smarts and your wisdom to get this done, I just want to say on the official record, thank you to all of you. You all have helped build the foundation for a stronger Multnomah County. Let's go to the next slide, slide 8. We were just here, as the chair said, on August 26th, and we shared the first draft of this plan. It's important to remember, not only 4 months ago, we did not have a unifying 3-year operational strategic plan. Now we do. And it gives us the roadmap to transformative accountability and alignment. And breaking news, we actually just put the full plan up on our public website. You can find it at link.multco.us/strategic-plan. Our initial staff survey showed a strong internal support for everything in this plan. And since the briefing, we've also confirmed that this shared vision extends to the public. The Community Pulse survey results showed extensive external support, with over 80% of respondents indicating that they either like or they love the proposed outcomes. This clear consistency validates that our priorities directly align with the needs and the expectations of Multnomah County residents. The board, you all, have given us the what by way of policy priorities. What it is that we, as local government and an organization, need and are bound to accomplish. This strategic plan and the strategic planning process is what's going to figure out the how. And most importantly, how will we know? And so by bringing in everyone else, frontline staff, department leaders alike, assuring that this plan is practical, relevant, and comprehensive. So, the chair mentioned this earlier as well. We've been working hard and moving quick since August 26. Right after that briefing, we began synthesizing your feedback to refine the plan's focus areas and its language. We established 10 leadership work groups to finalize the specific measures for each strategic focus area outcome and identify the data stewards responsible for tracking that progress. This moved us from high-level goals to a more concrete and what you all asked for, measurable results. Once we finalized departmental contributions, we then moved on to what I think is the most significant step toward actualization, which is integrating the strategic plan with the budget process. The Strategic Plan Performance Management Committee met many times over the last 2 months to work on developing the connection between the plan and the upcoming fiscal year 2027 budget. So I'm pleased to share that the fiscal year 27 will serve as our official pilot year for implementation. This approach allows us to test accountability frameworks, data collection, and resource allocation before the end of the 3-year cycle, ensuring that this plan becomes a living document. This integration ensures the plan provides a robust framework for making tough decisions, which all 5 of you know as well as anyone else that we're going to have to do, helping us to prioritize our highest operational needs and adapt in a challenging environment. Now, looking forward toward the future, this plan complements and supports critical existing strategic plans as well, like the Workforce Equity Strategic Plan and the Homelessness Response Action Plan. And our continued focus is going to be on coordinating the data on those and action on those across all bodies of work. So I'll speak for myself when I say that I'm excited for the work ahead of us, but I think it's also fair to say there's a lot of folks out there that are on the strat plan train with me. Welcome aboard. And we're all squarely focused on the deep cross-departmental work necessary to achieve the many important outcomes that are outlined in this plan. So we finally have the blueprint for building a stronger, more responsive county government that can thrive for years to come. And I promise that under my watch is not going to be some dust sitting on a shelf, because there's too much at stake right now to let something like that happen. And so you've got my word that we will leverage every bit of thought, planning, and insight that went into this document that we have before you today. And now I'll turn it over to Sam Ashby.
Hello, everyone. I'm Samuel Ashby. I serve as the... Next slide, please.
Morning.
Good morning. I'm Samuel Ashby. I serve as the Director of Strategic Initiatives for Multnomah County. So the strategic plan is grounded in the county's mission, vision, and values, which were refreshed in 2024 in part to provide a foundation for our One County strategic plan. The plan prioritizes equity, efficiency, and resilience to make sure our work continues to advance the well-being of residents and supports vulnerable communities. Ultimately, this strategic plan is not just about weathering current financial challenges, but also about building a stronger, more responsive government that can thrive in the years to come. Next slide, please. The strategic plan is structured around 5 core interconnected elements. The first of those being focus areas. These are the overarching priorities the county will concentrate on over the next 3 years. They represent our major commitments and our big themes or challenges that will guide our efforts, resource allocation, and decision-making. Within each focus area, outcomes define the specific desired results or impacts that we aim to achieve. They describe the future state and will demonstrate our work is making a difference. Indicators are the ways we will illustrate our progress towards the outcomes. While an outcome states what we want to achieve, an indicator is the way we will show if we are on the right track. These indicators will be evaluated annually to provide a clear picture of our progress. Measures are the metrics used to gauge the indicators. The measures specify what data will be collected, tracked, analyzed, and reported relative to the indicators. Measures include percentages, averages, rates, and other metrics, disaggregated by relevant demographics to show nuance and disparities. Qualitative measures are also included when possible. Measures will allow us to establish baselines and to create one-year targets to achieve. And then finally, strategies. These are the specific actions and projects that we will undertake to achieve our focus areas and outcomes. They are the concrete steps that turn our plans into reality. Strategies can be ongoing activities or short-term finance projects that are either part of our routine operations or new initiatives designed to drive change. Each strategy should directly contribute to at least one of a focus area's outcomes. Next slide, please. Now I want to walk you through what we've been doing since November and December of last year. So from December 24 to February of 25, we began our strategic planning journey with an initial leadership council survey that included members of the board as well as department directors. That was followed by 20 in-depth interviews with the board and county leadership to gain granular insights and to ultimately set the broad direction. In 2025, we synthesized those findings to prepare for the spring cohort sessions. And over the course of April and May of 2025, we convened 6 cohort focus area work groups. These work groups were comprised of department leaders, subject matter experts that were engaged to leverage their deep operational knowledge to develop granular, actionable insights and cross-departmental solutions. In early of 2025, our deputy COOs met with department directors to get feedback on the work that came out of the cohorts and to revise as needed. In July of 2025, our ERU team developed and disseminated an all-staff residence check survey to ensure broad alignment and shared ownership across the organization. And finally, on August the 26th, we presented the first draft of the strategic plan to this board. After briefing, we revised the plan to incorporate feedback from the board and administered a community feedback survey from September 26th to October 8th of 2025. That was designed to validate focus areas and outcomes with Multnomah County residents. In mid-October 2025, we convened 10 cross-departmental work groups. These are leaders, experts, and as well as analysts to finalize the measure language, revise indicators, and formally identify departments responsible for tracking and reporting what we refer to as data stewards. The SPARK team and the budget office met regularly throughout November to formally align the strategic plan to the FY27 budget process. And we are happy today to present the final strategic plan before we move to implementation. We will get into the details of our implementation plan later in the slide deck. Next slide, please. So we've seen this slide before. I want to emphasize that we continue to be at the cross stage when it comes to integrating the strategic plan with our day-to-day work and budget processes. We've done a ton of foundational work to get us to this point today. but we need to build our organizational muscle. We believe we now have a very good set of indicators and measures ready to test our hypotheses by using these measures to accurately gauge our success towards achieving our one county outcomes. It is crucial to remember, this is a new way of thinking, and things take time to coalesce and to get everyone on board and start rowing in the same direction. We are focused on fostering that alignment moving forward. Next slide, please. We've been using this iceberg illustration to help people to understand the scope of our strategic plan. The major takeaway is that our strategic plan is not meant to capture the vast majority of essential county business. The purpose of this strategic plan is to identify and focus on a specific set of one county outcomes that are driven by cross-departmental work. It uplifts the critical work that requires coordination across teams. In resource-constrained years, it is especially important to maintain focus. The plan allows us to keep our sights set on these strategic goals and to uplift the areas where Multnomah County has a major role in improving and succeeding on the outcome for the community. Next slide, please. Following the August 26 board briefing, we synthesized board feedback and launched into a community pulse survey to ensure the plan's outcomes and focus areas resonated broadly with our residents. In October, we convened 10 cross-departmental leadership groups to finalize the plan, and this effort was vital for revising the indicators and measures language, explicitly clarifying which data departments currently collect and formally identifying data collection stewards across the organization. In November, we circulated the revised plan for final departmental feedback to complete the FY26 measures. The Strategic Plan Performance Management Committee met throughout this month to map out the connection of the plan with the FY27 budget process. Over the next couple of slides, we'll look deeper into the milestones and their results. Next slide, please.
Hello, I'm Allison Sachet. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the manager of the Evaluation and Research Unit in the Department of County Management. To gather feedback from the community, we conducted a pulse survey of community members. The draft focus areas and outcomes were shared with a sample of respondents living in Multnomah County. We intentionally recruited community members from all 4 Multnomah County districts and for representation from diverse backgrounds and identities. The survey was open for about 2 weeks, and we received a total of 463 responses. This is a sufficient sample size for a 95% confidence interval for a population the size of Multnomah County. Next slide, please. The survey results showed community members' broad support, with more than 80% of community respondents indicating that they like or love the outcomes. This strong consensus highlights a shared vision among communities for the county's future. Certain outcomes resonated even more strongly, with 90% or more of community respondents liking or loving the outcomes, including safe neighborhoods throughout Multnomah County with 91% either liking or loving that outcome. Multnomah County is prepared for and resilient to emergencies and disasters at 90%. A workplace culture that is equitable, responsive, accountable, and diverse drives continuous proactive improvement at 92%, and a unified, equitable, and effective youth and family system at 92%. Next slide, please. This slide shows the percentage of community respondents who liked or loved the outcomes, arranged from highest preference to lowest preference across all respondents. The table also shows the percentage of community respondents who liked or loved the outcomes by Multnomah County district. There were no major differences between districts. Community members in all districts seemed to have similar top outcomes, including a unified and equitable, effective youth and family system, a workplace culture that's equitable, responsive, accountable, and drives proactive continuous improvement, safe neighborhoods throughout Multnomah County, and Multnomah County is prepared for and resilient to emergencies and disasters. There were some slight variations. For example, respondents in District 2 also rated highly. Multnomah County is a diverse and thriving community through economic vitality. And respondents in District 4 rated highly Multnomah County is a trusted source for health, wellness, and safety information and services. Slide 18, or sorry, next slide, please. Yeah. We also wanted to show how community survey results compared to staff survey results. This table shows that both county staff and community members gave all outcomes high ratings on the whole, but there were some distinctions. While staff gave higher ratings to outcomes that are more focused on internal county operations and being a trusted source of information, survey respondents from the community rated outcomes related to external services more highly. Next slide, please. Throughout the strategic planning process, including during the leadership work groups, the staff survey, and from our conversations with you, the board, we heard suggestions for how to improve the strategic plan. So we made these revisions from the first draft of the strategic plan. We moved from outputs to outcomes. Measures now focus on tangible outcomes or the impact rather than simply tracking outputs, such as the number of people served, linking activity directly to meaningful results. We updated vague to more specific language. The plan replaces broad terms like challenging circumstances with more concrete and clear language to make the plan easier to understand and evaluate. We integrated equity metrics directly into the measures, explicitly calling for disaggregated data by race, ethnicity, and geography when they're available to ensure we're working to close disparities. We improved accountability. Accountability is now a core part of the framework, helping formalize the county's commitment to external oversight and internal transparency in decision-making. Finally, we will be implementing SMART goals. The goals will adopt the SMART format with a clear from a baseline to a target structure, providing a measurable starting point for tracking progress. Next slide, please. This chart shows the number of indicators each department is responsible for collecting, tracking, and analyzing data for the measures. The measures are primarily metrics that departments are currently tracking. As the strategic plan grows over time, these measures will be updated and revised based on progress of the strategic plan goals and development of programs. There are a total of 34 indicators in the strategic plan, and you can see in the chart that all departments contribute to the big picture of the strategic plan. I'd like to point out that the number of indicators departments are responsible for is not an indication of the amount of work or the importance of the work. All departments do a lot of important work. The bigger departments with more divisions that provide different types of services tend to be responsible for more indicators, like the Health Department and the Department of County Human Services. Whereas departments with fewer divisions with more concentrated work, like Homeless Services Department and the Sheriff's Office, are responsible for fewer indicators. Again, all departments contribute to the success and the big picture of the countywide strategic plan. Next slide, please.
Savannah Graff, she, her pronouns. I'm a Senior Strategic Initiatives Manager in the CO's office. So for this slide, all of the October leadership work groups generated great collaborative feedback to revise the strategic plan. But with our limited time today, I'm only going to briefly walk you through an example of the flow within Focus Area 2. As Chris mentioned in his opening remarks, the entire revised strategic plan can be found on the Multnomah County website. So Focus Area 2, create a safe and just community, supporting individuals impacted by crime, including survivors and those in the justice system, and creating safer communities for everyone. Next slide, please. Outcome 2 within this focus area is all about creating safe neighborhoods throughout Multnomah County. For the purposes of today, we are going to look at measures for Indicator 1 and Indicator 2. Next slide, please. Indicator 1, support for high-risk justice-involved populations. The measures for this indicator are percentage of justice-involved people who have received risk and needs assessment disaggregated by demographics, treatment or programming plan engagement rate disaggregated by demographics, positive case closure rate disaggregated by demographics, and rate of compliance with terms of supervision disaggregated by demographics. You will also see on the right-hand side of the slide that department data stewards for this measure as well. Next slide, please. Indicator 2 is the rate of adverse engagement for justice-involved populations and is measured by the rate of different types of adverse engagement, such as rearrests, violations, sanctions, etc. This measure provides a nice inverse data point to the supportive services for justice-involved folks. Next slide, please. 2 key strategies to achieve the outcome safe neighborhoods throughout Multnomah County are to drive sustainable community safety by strategically aligning operational capacity with the highest acuity justice-involved populations, and 2, employ multi-domain assessments to identify the root drivers of justice system involvement and concentrate evidence-based, trauma-informed resources where they will be most effectively reduce recidivism. Next slide, please. Oh, did we skip one? Oh, a slide got left out, it looks like. We could just do this one. Yeah, we sent Marina an updated one. Apologies.
Well, since the board members have it, how about if you continue with your presentation and then we can
Perfect.
get it updated
Okay.
online.
Sounds good. So, slide 26. This visual is powerful because it helps illustrate the journey of a high acuity justice-involved individual and how their path touches many different aspects of Multnomah County. I really like this visual because it captures all the individual department contributions within this continuum to achieve our ultimate goal of a safe and resilient community. And this visual confirms that no single department works in isolation. Success requires coordination from system entry all the way through outcomes and case closure.
So, sorry to interrupt, but it looks like that's a few more slides past this one. Keep going.
Keep
Oh.
going.
No, sorry. It's the high acuity justice involved
Yep,
population
exactly.
journey?
Yeah, it would have been slide 26 in the updated.
Okay. Okay.
Do you want me to keep reading while she's pulling it up? Or
mean,
is it more helpful if the visual's up? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
I just sent it to you. Okay.
I think she pulled it from the materials, yeah. perfect. That one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tasha.
Okay, the process begins with the system entry and initial legal process, which sets the stage for transparent and consistent application of the law. Next is the comprehensive assessment, a critical pivot point where we employ multi-domain assessments to identify the individual's root drivers of justice system involvement. I want to note that while shown sequentially, the next two stages, supervision and compliance monitoring, and targeted treatment and service engagement, are often fluid. They can happen in either order depending on the referring agency and frequently involve going back and forth over time as needs change. Individuals are connected to tailored resources while being monitored for adherence to their conditions. The ultimate goal for the individual is Path A, a positive case closure, measured by the case closure rate. The alternative is Path B, adverse engagement and looping back into the system, measured by the adverse engagement rate, which includes recidivism and new criminal referrals. Notably, the outcome of a safe and resilient community does not rely solely on a justice-involved individual reaching formal positive case closure. It is an ongoing achievement for the community that is supported if the individual is compliant with their terms of their supervision. Next slide, please. Given current federal and state budget uncertainties, attempting to retroactively set quantitative goals for FY 2026 does not seem to make sense at this time. Instead, we are using the period from now until formal implementation of the strategic plan in July of 2026 to begin collecting data on the finalized measures. This essential step will allow us to establish accurate baselines and set achievable year 2 measure goals for the fiscal year 2027. Next slide, please. This visual helps illustrate how we will translate our high-level goals into concrete, measurable accountability. The measures are the actual data points we collect, the percentages, rates, averages, and counts used to quantify progress. These measures also include disaggregation by demographics to ensure we capture nuance and disparities. All of these individual measures collectively flow up to tell us where we are, theoretically, on the indicator. The indicator acts as the status check or the gauge that illustrates whether our efforts are currently on track, at risk, or off track. Similarly, all the indicators within a strategic area, when viewed together, tell us where we stand with that outcome. This 3-tiered data structure from metrics, the measures, to progress illustrations, the indicators, to final results, the outcomes, is how we ensure transparent, data-driven accountability across the county. This framework is designed to be a living tool, not a static document. It's a key part of our continuous improvement cycle. For example, if we find that all our indicators are showing green and we are technically on track, but the board, county leadership, or the community feels that we haven't genuinely achieved the desired outcome, that signals that something is missing. We can then deductively reason that we are either missing a critical indicator or measure from our initial assumptions, or there are outside factors that are beyond the county's control weighing in. This iterative feedback loop allows us to refine the plan, update the data being tracked, and ensure our metrics truly reflect the impact on community needs. Next slide, please. We will be using the fiscal year 2027 budget cycle as a pilot to train our organizational muscles for deeper budget alignment in the fiscal year 2028. This process is designed to complement, not override, the existing budget process. Departments with the support from the SPARK team will speak to their strategic plan data contributions in the departmental transmittal letter. The SPARK team will also provide the COO, chair, and board with a dashboard that groups each strategic focus area outcome to those department program offers. The SPARK team will also develop a Reader's Digest to better illustrate to the board and leadership the countywide impact of departmental investments. Next slide, please. Immediately following this briefing, the SPARK team will begin meeting with departments to start attaching program offers to their corresponding strategic plan measure contributions. Our initial work will focus on getting up to date by plugging in the fiscal year 2026 program offers. In doing so, we will have departments flag these strategic program offers to ensure we receive the updated versions for the fiscal year 2027 budget submission. The first major deliverable will be ready by February 1st, when we will release the first iteration of the dashboard populated with the fiscal year 2026 information. Once departments submit their proposed budgets on February 6th, we will work to update the dashboard by March 1st, reflecting those proposed departmental allocations. A critical milestone occurs on April 16th when the chair releases her proposed budget. We will immediately go through and mark up the dashboard with the chair's proposed budget decision. This version will be available to the board on May 1st, allowing you to see the fiscal year 2026 actuals and the fiscal year 2027 budgetary information comparatively side by side. After the budget is adopted in early June, the Spark team will dedicate its time to finalizing the dashboard and the strategic plan elements. This last phase of alignment with the final resource allocations will enable us to set more accurate SMART goals for the fiscal year 2027. Next slide, please. So for our implementation plan, we'll first look at accountability and collaboration. Our immediate implementation focuses on building muscle through the routine collaboration. We will reconvene leadership and data work groups on a regular, monthly, or quarterly basis. These ongoing meetings will serve as a vital forum to identify barriers, share best practices, elevate partnerships, and strategize on data to close the gaps in meeting our goals. Furthermore, our office will work directly with departments to develop a practical operating system. This comprehensive process will align our organizational structure, processes, and people to track outcomes, advance priorities, and ensure our efforts are focused across the upstream, midstream, and downstream investment continuum. We cannot achieve our goals without reliable data. The Evaluation and Research Unit will convene departmental research and data teams to conduct an in-depth analysis of our existing data infrastructure. This essential work aimed at understanding our data landscape, identifying gaps, and developing collaborative plans to fill them. Key products from this analysis includes identifying data types, sources, stewards, current reporting cadences, and barriers to analysis, ensuring we have the right data to track progress accurately. And finally, strategy and budget integration. In the short term, our goal is to attach program offers to department measure contributions to populate the dashboard. This initial alignment focuses on connecting program offers to the measures departments are responsible for collecting, tracking, and reporting data on. We recognize the connections between the budget and strategic plan are far deeper and more nuanced. Therefore, our long-term goal over the next year is to develop a comprehensive framework that clearly demonstrates the robust connections between budgetary investments and the achievement of our strategic plan outcomes. Next slide, please.
Samuel Ashby, Director of Strategic Initiatives. So, as we know, in order to be able to deliver on these cross-departmental outcomes, we have to design an operating system that will allow us to be able to connect that work and be able to operate, again, as a group. So, that strategic, that one county operating system will be made up of 4 parts. The strategic management system, which is identifies and prioritizes the most important areas of need in our community. This is evidenced by the strategic plan as a result of it. We also want to deeply evaluate and understand the processes and systems that improve our ability to deliver value. That means going through and starting to understand what processes and systems connect to the outcomes that we want to have impact on, and understanding where we have gaps relative to those processes. We also want to identify 4 leaders and help them, or rather have them to develop their desire around modeling the way, creating a system to remove barriers, and to develop people in this new structure. And then lastly, an improvement system, an aligned approach for us to be able to see problems together, to solve those problems together, and to share our results, not just inside of the county, but also external to the county as well.
Let's go to the next slide. This strategic plan is our commitment to improving the well-being of people in the county by providing high-quality public services that create stability, enhance opportunities, and reduce disparities. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your participation in this process. And now we'll open it up for Q&A. Before I turn the mic off, Commissioner Singleton, we definitely got your list of questions. Last night, we were on the phone, 8:30, 9 o'clock, but I think you and Sam have connected a bit since then. But we got them. We got them. Thank you. Kinda.
Great.
I've been exaggerating saying it was 30. It was close.
So thank you so much for the presentation, for all the work that's gone into this over the several months. And I know that you've met, I think, with most of the commissioners around the strategic plan at least a couple of times in the run-up to this meeting, so I appreciate you taking the time to do that too. We'll go to the board for questions. Why don't we start with Commissioner Singleton, since you had so many questions?
Well, thank you. I was not actually expecting responses to all of those questions overnight, but I do appreciate it. And I'm not going to make everybody sit through the 18 questions that I sent you all well after 5 p.m. last night. So my apologies for that again. I love the work that's been done to get us to a point of measures and indicators that makes sense to me. I think that was part of my struggle the last time you all presented. So thank you for all the work to really dig deeper into that and get things that we can measure. A couple of things I do want to highlight. There's an indicator, sorry, there's so much paper. There's an indicator about homelessness. It's Focus Area 1, reduction of net homelessness over 2 years. And the measures are all fine. I think where I struggle is there's no language about reducing disparities here. And it feels like it's supposed to be understood, but it doesn't read that way to me. So I just want to encourage us to maybe think about, we know what the disparities look like in homelessness. We've had many, many studies on it. It would be great to have that language explicitly named in there. The next one is with the rate of adverse engagement for, oh, I'm sorry, no, it's indicator, Focus Area 2, indicator 2. And it says rate of compliance with terms of supervision disaggregate when available by demographics. The county sheriff's office is not included there, and I understand that departments had a bit of an opt-in or an opt-out, but I feel really strongly, considering the pretrial services work that they do, serving over 600 people, they have to be included in that. And if there's a problem on the data collection end, I would want us to figure that out. I know that we're not planning, or the idea isn't for that program to stay there in perpetuity, but it feels like a huge number of people that we serve that we're missing if they're not in this, included in this one. I talked a little bit with Sam. There's some things around training that some departments aren't included, and if they're not tracking the data, I hope that we're giving direction that they should be tracking the data, because it seems odd that some departments have to report on things around training access. It's a lot about emergency preparedness, and others don't. The thing I do want to name here is that while I know we are not responsible for our contracted providers in the same way we are for our employees, I think it is incredibly important that we figure out how to support our contracted providers, particularly in homeless services or any sort of residential-like space, that they have access to trainings. It is incredibly expensive and difficult to get your staff trained as a nonprofit on things that I think we want them to be able to do. And I will tell you that during COVID, it was a huge problem for homeless service providers because they're not regulated at the state. No information's coming to them from the state. And so I do think we have a gap there in training that we should really explore on how to support our contracted providers. Just because we decided not to do the work and contract it out, I think we got to figure that out with them. The other piece I'd add is there's a section about revenue, and while they're watch measures, I do think we need a specific goal around supportive housing services. It's an enormous component of our revenue, and I think that if, for folks who aren't aware, Multnomah County was critically important in that measure, and I think in any future measure that it's going to be something that we have to really lean into, and so our ability to continue to watch and track that feels really important. And I gave Christian a heads up that I would say that today, because I'm definitely not looking to add work, but it feels like a really important one. And I would say probably preschool for all should be included in there as well, any revenue that we should be tracking. And I will just say, there's a section about engagement with partners, and I understand that government relations is the only entity that currently tracks partners that they engage. I have a lot of concerns about that. The data is going to be, I feel like, rough on this first year, so I hope that there's work happening to look at how we're tracking that more broadly. I don't want us to rest on who's already tracking the data, but looking at where those gaps and giving that direction and support to help departments collect the data that we think they need to be collecting. And I know we've had a ton of conversations about that bigger picture about de-siloing data as well. I don't expect all of that to happen in year one. I just want to name that seems to be a piece that, yes, we're capturing what folks do, and also we're giving direction to capture that. And I don't know if you want to talk to that at all, or what you're thinking about that piece.
You want me to do it? Yeah, I think that's extremely important that we need to do that. And part of this exercise, actually, I think a big part of this exercise is highlighting those gaps, highlighting which departments are collecting what, and then giving direction to departments to collect the data that feeds into the strategic plan. I also guarantee that this will come up throughout the budget process as well, which is what, to me, this whole thing is supposed to be about anyway, because maybe not all departments have the resources to collect the data that we are going to direct them to do. So this will come back, and I appreciate you bringing it up. Thank you.
Absolutely, and thank you. I appreciate that. I think, you know, there's some things that I would put in here and I wouldn't, and I can let that go. I would like to see us looking at with, I mentioned to Sam, the DA's office in particular, where there's some specific investments around expungements and restorative justice and other types of programs that, to me, are about community safety, and we're not capturing that anywhere. And I appreciate the focus on victims and survivors. This type of work is also a component of that. So I do think in the future it would be helpful to look at additional outcomes that might be helpful to think about for strategic planning, because to me, that's a space where there's overlap with other departments, where folks might be serving somebody who is trying to access expungement, right? And that's a barrier to them for housing or for these other things that they want to be able to do. So I just want us to think about kind of what we see in the budget that feels like county programs and how we add those at some point into our strategic plan. I'm going to stop there on all of my questions, but I just wanted to list some of them, and again, appreciate the quick response and feedback. I also just want to say I really appreciate the lens that you brought around research and engaging community and having that survey input and feedback. It's one of the first times I've seen us do that as a county, and I haven't been here forever, but that felt really different, and so I appreciate you all taking the time to do that and make sure that it's not just county staff who are engaged, but also the community who's trying to access our services. So thank you all.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Moyer.
Thank you for what is clearly a tremendous amount of work that went into this, and it is reflected in the quality of the product. I would echo Commissioner Singleton's point about the way data and research was integrated into this in a way my brain finds very helpful in understanding how people reacted to it, both externally and internally, how we vetted and got to where we were. Just even knowing all the different people who, participated at different levels is actually quite helpful in looking at it to see how cooked. I don't mean that pejoratively. I just mean like, did the right people weigh in on this? And because there's a lot of stuff in here I'm not super knowledgeable about, but feel because of how it's laid out and the work that was done, I feel comfortable, even though that's not my area of expertise. So I wanted to call that out because I think that that's something that makes me more comfortable with things I don't know about and the goals we set and why we set those goals. I also have a similar expectation as Commissioner Singleton, that probably 2026 data collection is going to be clunky and weird, and we may discover some things we didn't expect to discover and may, adjust accordingly, and that won't surprise me, but I'm super glad we're doing it, because this is, I think we could have conversations about like this word and that word, and I'm not going to do that here, many of which, I probably don't have any meaningful knowledge about, but what I like about this is the framework in which we're going to evaluate our work from our perspective, have hard conversations about resource allocation. I think maybe my question is, within our budget reality, what do you think will be some of the challenges? Obviously, we're looking to make improvements in what we measure, and yet at the same time, we're going to have to make difficult decisions about not continuing the same funding level on all of the things we do, and how are you grappling with that?
Okay, I'll go first, and then I'll hand it over to Sam and Savannah, who have much more details here. I think my answer, I know the answer is very similar to what I mentioned earlier. The data collection, the data platforms, the systems that we use are everywhere. And it does make it difficult, especially for the team here next to me, to be able to not only try to find similar data between departments, but then to also outline the data collection process between departments and the different systems that different departments use to collect similar or completely different data. And so trying to synthesize all of that into something that is easy and that is quick and intuitive, that we can then present this strategic plan better and faster, is going to be an investment that we expect to talk about in 27, budget-wise. And that's a big investment. I know that it is, and I think all of you, especially you're nodding, looking at me right now, know that that's a big investment to be able to do that. So an operating system, I know Sam talked about it a little bit earlier, but just specifically the data collection-wise and maintaining it too. Not just so we're checking in once every couple months to see what you've done over the last quarter, but being able to continuously input that data that we are asking for in the way that we want. And then finally, before I hand it over, continuous improvement. Focusing on the continuous improvement, like Savannah mentioned on one of the slides. If we find that we are off target, we need to be able to adjust. And there's a lot that goes into, one, putting the target out there, recognizing what it is, and then finally knowing that you can need to adjust and being able to do it nimbly versus waiting another whole budget process.
Yeah, what I'll add to this is that I think part of the challenge that we currently have is that we've never mapped out how the work happens. We have anecdotal understanding around the work, and we've got to be able to have a deep understanding around how we manage case management on individuals across the continuum. So that's the first part of it. Secondly, we need to understand what gaps are we seeing as we map those processes. Are we seeing data gaps? Are we seeing policy gaps? Are we seeing programming gaps? And then we have to identify an escalation path. Where should those types of problems go to? And I've spoken with each of you individually. My position is that policy gaps, I would love for that to become part of the board's work plan, because that's the space where you can really lean in and help us to address the big P around policy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Jones-Dixon.
Great, thank you, Chair. Great presentation, Savannah. Sam and Chief, and thank you for just your efforts and the time that you've made with our office as far as the feedback. I just have a couple, supportive of all the things, as you know, as it pertains to, and I think this is a great start and we're making progress. Just a couple things I want to flag for us. It's just going to be interesting to see how our work plan, our board work plan, I know we're going to be discussing this after this, how that aligns with the work that you've done already. One thing I didn't ask yesterday was, after reading through the actual report, I think on page 40 in the report, it talks about the weaknesses, and throughout the report, it talks about like the impacts on the staff, psychologically, and then also just the internal silos. How do we measure, like, realistically within the next year, how that's being impacted or the improvements in those areas? And then I'll build off of that. Yeah.
So I think, again, it's very similar to what we just talked about. We've got to understand how the work happens, and we've got to remove the barriers that are driving some of those silos. So how do we manage information across multiple departments? How do we problem solve in the same type of way? We know that departments all do problem solving, right? That's obvious. But having a standard approach around problem solving is one of those methods to be able to try to standardize our work and to allow us to be able to do cross-functional and cross-departmental problem solving. That's where I feel like we're stuck with today.
Got it. Great. And then to build off of Commissioner Singleton's point, under the safe and just community, I completely agree with you. I think a lot of, and I didn't mention this yesterday, just the responses, it seems like they're reactive. And then, so just see how we can bring in like some of the restorative justice, the elements that I think that we're already doing with MPD and MCDA. It's extremely important when you think about the overall healing and solving problems and equipping the community with the tools to do that in a restorative way that the data shows that it's, that should be in there. So we can, I guess my question is, how do we update, what will be the process moving forward as far as, making changes as necessary, to just some of the things that, some of the outcomes in the, yes. You can
Savannah Graff for the record.
Yeah.
Yes, so we're hoping to kind of like freeze where we are with the strategic plan right now to be able to collect baseline data on the things that are already outlined. And then after the budget process and where funding and resource allocations land, then update in June, July, so that the plan reflects that. And then adding in any other measures like from today or as we do the work throughout the time between now and then as well.
Yeah, great. Thank you. That's helpful, and you did mention that yesterday. Lastly, like I said, this is a really, really great start. One of my mentors, he always says you can't fix a secret, so a lot of the things are being exposed, which is good, and it's helpful for our communities as well as far as the direction that we're going in and then how the steps that we're taking to do that. So thank you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Brim Edwards.
Thanks, team. This is a great presentation, and I find that foundational work that's happened very promising. So just professionally, since for the last decade, most of my work has been around creating and implementing strategic plans and how do they integrate with budgets. So since the day I joined the county, I was wondering where our strategic plan was and really mystified about the budget process, how it focused on activities and not outcomes. Especially the fact that lack of outcomes, goals, and then, because I believe without that, you can't solve your biggest, most complex problems. So I want to really acknowledge that I feel like you've integrated outcomes and with the budget in a way that I feel like will allow us to assess whether we're, as I've said over the last couple of years, that like, are we treading water? Are we making progress? Are we going backwards? And like, frankly, on a lot of things, we have no idea, which is, especially when we have big challenges, you can't make improvements if you don't even know where you are, or you don't have a goal about where you want to go. So I love the SMART goals that are integrated into here, along with the integration of equity, disaggregated data, The dashboards, I'm a big fan of green, yellow, and red because I believe it allows policymakers and the community just to get a high level of assessment, like, are we on the right track? You know, and really to focus on like where we're not on track and how we get back on track, you know, so be able to look at something, it's like, hey, we've got all greens, we're all on track, or we've got some, you know, some areas of concern that we really should focus more budgetary resources on. I think a side benefit for the county and our county residents, I think there's going to be a lot of benefits of having very specific outcomes and goals and being able to measure that, is I also believe it'll allow the commission to stay at the right level in terms of, from a policy standpoint, from a budgetary standpoint, to really effectively assess how we're doing and where we should be focusing on, and where there needs to be resources in terms of systems improvements or a reassessment of our goals. So I think that will be a side benefit from staff, that the commission, it will allow us to really see how the county is operating and whether we're making progress on our goals, versus guessing or having very granular level questions, because we'll be able to stay up here in our oversight. So with that, I'm going to dive into just a couple of places where maybe close to as many as Commissioner Singleton has. I'm going to send them in advance, but just some comments and questions that I have, and they're more focused on not necessarily the presentation here today, because I appreciate the process. I think it's the right process to get us to where we are today, and also the next steps. So I'm all supportive of that. So remember, I'm more focused on like the indicators and some of the things that I either thought were missing or just had questions about. So this is, I don't know the best way to talk about it, but outcome number 2, indicator 1 on the net reduction of homeless over 2 years. I'm curious about how we get more specific, and I know that there's going to be this meeting of the more specificity when we get to the budget, but I really think, given where we are in our work related to homelessness, how many years into it we're going to need to be more specific. I don't know if you want to answer that now or just, it's a follow-up. I just think that, I think our community is going to look at that and be like, yeah, like we expected you to be doing that, and like what is the goal? This is something I've said repeatedly, is like on something specific to this, and I'm going to say the same thing related to public safety. Geographic disaggregation is going to be really important to me, because we know that depending on the neighborhood you live in, you may or may not be more impacted by public safety issues or homelessness. So again, we can't just like say, hey, on average, we're doing better, and we have areas that are heavily impacted without geographic areas or neighborhoods. This is a general comment on some of the health and services we provide to seniors and people with disabilities. There's indicators relating to access, but not necessarily whether people access them. So it's not just like, hey, people had access, but did they actually access them? And again, that would be sort of a general comment across that. General comment just overall is so many of the measurements are percentages, and I'm going to be a person who's going to always ask for the denominator, because it also tells me the size of the challenge or not. So if, you know, we're at 50% and the denominator is 2, I'm less concerned. But if the denominator is 10,000 and we're at 50%, that means 5,000 people. So it just gives a sense of scale and like what's the size of the resources to address something. So again, anything that we have on percentages, I'm always going to ask. And I don't know if you want to respond to that now, because that's something that I think we can't operate on percentages. 'Cause
Everybody
they can be
just-
very misleading.
We all just whispered, yes, we'll be able to do that. That's all.
Okay, I couldn't hear your whispering from here. But thank you for saying it out loud. And like I say, I appreciate it, and so it's not like that I'm saying that you weren't going to do it, but it's just I didn't see it, so I just wanted to call it out because I will never not ask that question. Pardon?
I will never not ask.
I mean, it's just like a classic thing I'm going to ask. This is a general question, or a general comment about the health. You know, one of our biggest issues in Multnomah County right now is the lack of access to behavioral health services. And as I look through it, it seems like we have a number of, like, how many people can access or what sort type of services, but there's not this, like, hey, we have a gap of this size, and we're trying to close that gap. And we know we have a huge gap, and I feel like if we don't name the specific gap, both in mental health service and also substance use services, that we're dancing around one of the largest issues for the county, and again, getting that in disaggregated way. And I just didn't see it. I kind of looked for, like, where's the thing that I'm looking for, that the community's gonna say, like, are we actually getting more mental health services to individuals? Are we providing more treatment? Are we getting people on a path to recovery? This is gonna be more specific. The indicators on FA 202, indicator 3, the accountable, successful, consistent, and transparent enforcements of laws. And this is going to be really specific to the geography in my district, the eastern edge of my district, which has some of the highest rates of gun violence, person-to-person crimes, which I didn't see any indicator. It was more like auto theft and property theft, which is also a huge issue. I don't want to dismiss that, but I didn't see that in here, and I would be remiss if I didn't raise that. I want to see that in here. Like, just a couple weeks ago, we had another, like, 14-year-old, shot to death in my district, and I know this is like, from a county standpoint, this is more our budget, sort of how we resource gun violence interruption programs, the DA's office, the sheriff's office. But we can impact that by our budget and some of the choices we make. So I feel like that's a missing component. Property, absolutely, huge issue, but we miss that particular piece. On the effective management of public safety risks related to animals, we have a spay and neuter percentages, but we don't have a percentage of animals who have been successfully housed, which seems to be a missing indicator. I'd bring this up, the economic activity piece. This is going to be a little bit so additive to Commissioner Singleton's. I think we need to be looking at also the universal preschool tax receipts. It's funding a major program. Are they sustainable? And since it's income tax, we know that's highly volatile. So just being able to track that. If we're talking about a thriving community, I think a watch metric, and understanding the difference between an indicator and watch metric, but it would be the income of county residents. Again, geographically dispersed, we have wide variations across the county, but that is a key, from my perspective, a key indicator of, individual county residents' economic vitality is like how do they have a family wage job? The business income tax is like a rough estimate, but I think another watch metric is the number of businesses starting, moving, closing within the county. I'm gonna have some more thoughts on that, but those would be some baseline, because again, I view this more, this is more of like enabling, this enables us to do all the things that the county, provide the county services. Financial stewardship and accountability. The percentage of financial audit findings that are repeat violations, I mean, the reality is we have very few, kudos to our finance team. There's very few audit findings for the financial audits. Very few. So I have somebody who serves on the audit committee. What we do have is a lot of performance audit recommendations. So I think it's, again, if we're looking for systems improvement, which I think performance auditing is focused on, that we should have an indicator of like how many performance audit recommendations do we have and have we implemented them? Again, I think the financial audit, that's like an easy layup because I got thrown in a sports metaphor, because like we don't have very many of those, but we do have a lot of the other ones that are a great tool. And I don't have that many other ones. Again, I think this first year is going to be like, are we measuring some of the right things? We have the right indicators and doing fine tuning and just viewing it as an evolving document. I would have under the United, Equitable, and Effective Youth and Family System, in addition to growth in the preschool for all seats, that we also have a indicator around quality and safety for students who are in the county's universal preschool program. And this is a more general comment because I couldn't find specifically where to put it, but one of the county's functions is also to provide like an accessible community. And I saw like accessibility called out in some places, but not a more overall assessment. And given that that's, I believe, core, it's core to the population that the county serves and many of our services, that I'm looking for some indicator that we're making progress in terms of accessibility. And it can look differently in a whole bunch of different ways, but finding some way to like measure how we're doing. It's not just making our website accessible, but it's, physical barriers, everything else involved. And that's it. But I don't know if you want to comment back anything besides the whispered yes to but that would be my general feedback. Generally, I think you all are on the right track. I'm really appreciative of it because we have some huge challenges, and if we're not measuring outcomes and aligning our budget against those, we're not going to make progress.
I'll just say that as a group, we'll probably take our time to respond to the questions and give a thoughtful response.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And thank you for the briefings that you provided throughout the process and for engaging with all of our communities.
Thank you. So we had one follow-up from Commissioner Jones-Dickson and one follow-up from Commissioner Singleton. And then, so we will hear those and then wrap up and move on to our work session.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Chair. And just wanted to flag, I think I mentioned it during the meeting, just how can we be more district specific as far as the plan, and that might be in 27. And then the other question that I had, did we engage with like the Justice Fellows at all, or anyone from LIPSIC around the the Justice Fellows, the fellowship that we have? I think that would be a really good idea, seeing that they've gone through the criminal justice system here in Multnomah County, widely successful now, and they're helping to provide just policy direction and input. So getting their eyes on this would be, I think their feedback would be great and helpful. So thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you, Commissioner Singleton.
Thank you. Just one that I know you all know, but feels important to say out loud is it's missing eviction prevention metric, and that's a really big one for me to make sure that we capture. It's probably the bulk of what the Community Action Agency is funded to do from the state. So thank you.
Great. So I just want to really express my gratitude for being here today. So Commissioner Brim Edwards said when she started as a commissioner, she wondered why we didn't have a strategic plan. And that was something that was very similar to me when I came aboard as commissioner, especially as I went through budget cycle after budget cycle and really struggled to figure out how does something that's an output in a program offer actually connect up to the larger work of the county and what we're trying to accomplish for our communities. And so when I became chair, having a process where we were setting up a vision, mission, and values that people were, had a part in creating so that we had some direction, and then having a strategic plan that really was about those values, was about that vision and mission, but really dug into the actual work that we do in a way that gave us some overarching goals that were countywide, but really helped to drill into some of the things that we wanted to be focusing on and achieving and then measuring to make sure we're achieving those. And I feel like this is the closest we have ever been in my 9 years at the county. And so I just really want to say thank you so much for all the work, and thank you to all of the employees and community members who have been a part of this, because it is really something important, I think, for the county to be able to have this connection. And I think, as somebody who is part of this body that has to prioritize, make decisions about budget priorities and how we're going to be spending our money, especially in a constrained environment, being able to put those pieces together as we're making those decisions and understanding from a department is, proposing this or a cut here or propose there, and really understanding where the pushes and pulls are and what we might see on the other side of those decisions is really key. So I know this is really going to be an important transition year. We're going to have more tools than we have before, but I think it will set us up in the longer term for really tying together those budget decisions and the actions that we're going to be able to see. So thank you so much, really, for all of this work. Really appreciate it. We will take a quick break. And then we will reconvene in our work session format. So thank you all so very much. And you should all be very proud of the work that you've done. So thank you. Okay, we'll take a quick 5-minute break and reconvene. reconvened. So the next part of today's meeting is going to be a work session on the board work plan. So in January, we agreed to do a board work plan. I really appreciate District 2's work on this, along with my team. Thank you, Quinn and Sarah. And today, we're going to have a discussion about some of the work that's been done on this. So Commissioner Singleton, I will pass it over to you.
Thank you, Chair. I think just a couple of quick points. One, also want to appreciate fellow commissioners and staff for the work in between meetings. We've talked about this a couple of times, and I know it takes some time to do the edits and get those back out, so I want to appreciate folks for that. Just as a reminder, this was something we said we wanted to do shortly after this iteration of the board convened, and I think that we're not in a place to keep kind of going back and forth on it. I think it's time to really nail down some of the timeline pieces on this, because we do have both Quinn and Sarah from the chair's office and my office here to take notes and kind of looking at the snapshot and getting some of these into the calendar so that we can start really digging into the content as opposed to developing the work plan. So I would ask that we focus on some of the timing pieces that are critical to us as we talk through it today. But everything you see here, it's just a new format. It's the same language that was in the Word document that we had been working out of. This is just a different visual now that we're ready to take it to that next step and kind of look at how we can link it. And then you'll see on the far right side, there's a piece around connection to the strategic plan that we can start to track. I think it's just to have that format there over time. Everything may not link right now. It's the first time. But in the future, this will just help us kind of snap things to that. So with that, I'd love to just open the conversation so we can start talking about timeline and timing of some of these big buckets of work that we want to take on.
Is it cool if I just jump in? Okay. I'm looking at the connecting more people to long-term treatment and recovery. And I want to push a little bit to see where we could get in under the adult addictions treatment continuum. I'd like a little bit better understanding of what Anthony and his team have been asked to do. So I can wrap my head around, like, is there anything missing in that? But I'd also, like, the piece I want to add to that, which I think would be, I think ideally on the same or just after timeline, is what can the county in partnership with HealthShare do to actively fill some of the gaps we identify in needs analysis? And then a piece of that isn't there, but I think will come out of the reality that we are going to have to find and rely on solutions that do not fall into the category of residential, because OHA holds all the keys to residential. We're going to need to be creative in models that can achieve good outcomes that are similar to or the same as what some providers are doing, which is housing in collaboration, even at the same location as intensive outpatient. And I think that we're gonna have to talk about how homeless services may play a role in just the where somebody sleeps portion of that conversation, just an analysis. And then recovery housing kind of, to me, also kind of goes a little bit into that. So I just want to throw that out there as flushing that budget note out with work I know is being done by our health department, so that going into, like I said, be 2028 budget, or 2027, 28 budget, we're looking at, like, what are some first investments or shifting of investments that could help us start to fill those need gaps. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
So what I'm hearing is, and I want to make sure, you said you did need to get more information about what was going to be in this budget note or what they were putting together for?
What there are, yeah, because I know they are doing
Yes.
a needs
Yeah.
analysis. I'm not 100% sure what they're looking at
Okay.
and how they're looking at it, and I'm wanting to make sure that we can take that and either parallel or directly after, how do we move, knowing where we need capacity, into what can we, in partnership with our CCOs,
Yeah.
actually do?
Yeah.
Which is, you know, because there's going to be things that I'm sure they're going to identify. They're like, only OHA can do that. And they're like, we don't control OHA, so we're.
No, Ed.
I want to know it, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to tell you, we need more inpatient dual diagnosis. That's really very difficult for the county to do. But there is stuff, I think, that'll show up, that it's like, yeah, okay, let's be creative. We probably can do some things.
And I think this is a good alignment with some of the updates to the HRAP and some of the goals around that we're looking at as well. So that's a good synergy. So what I'm saying is, like, so we'll have this budget note, which is scheduled right now, or it's due in the beginning of May, but really a follow-up to that in terms of digging in then to what we hear and how do we actually, what are the ways or the appropriate places that those gaps would need to be filled, whether through us or other folks.
And then my second comment, just like right under that, and I made this comment to Jillian related to HRAP, is we have got to distinguish what are, meaning Multnomah County, and also maybe in partnership with the city of Portland or other cities, what our behavioral health care needs are from the states, because they are very, very different. And the state has the legal responsibility to deal with their side of it, and I hope they do, and I have thoughts about that, but like, I feel like people conflate those two issues, and what the system we need in the community has to have more voluntary options, more non-criminal justice involved options, and more long-term stability, which is not necessarily the interest of the state. So I throw that because we're talking about statewide system of care. And like, I know for a fact the one that OHSU did is from a state hospital capacity crisis perspective. That's real, but that's not our problem.
So this is mine, and some of it stems from work that we had to drop when COVID started that was really centered on people with lived experience and gaps in behavioral health care. And the piece, yes, one policy goal is around the additional capacity because it's resourced from the state, but a piece of this should also be the ongoing issue around step down and step up in care, right? I think that that's something we keep hearing about. We're hearing about it from landlords. We're hearing about it from, unfortunately, sometimes people do step up in care and then they lose their apartment because they're gone too long. So there's a lot of like things to work through on that for sure.
Yep.
Thank you. Anyone else?
So this is like just a very high level, this is a very high level comment. And it's somewhat disruptive, so I don't mean it to be disruptive, so I'm just going to preface it that way. But just having had the presentation on the strategic plan, from an organizational standpoint, I think it would make more sense organizationally if we clustered our work around the broader topic areas. Because in theory, our strategic plan, there's work that the departments are doing and the staff are doing. And then there's pieces that are the board's role. And so just in terms of integration, so it's not like, hey, the county, the staff is implementing the strategic plan over here. We've kind of got the larger categories. And over here, the commission is doing these other things that don't, I think they all fit within the work of the strategic plan, but they're not organized in that way. And so I'm, in my mind, I'm trying to think like, what are the big pillars of the work that we're doing? And it's like, okay, there's work that just the county commission does.
So Commissioner, that column is connection to the strategic plan is the last column, and I am happy to have you and your team help fill that out, but we're not going to go back and reformat this whole thing. This just needs to be done at this point.
Okay, we could do that. I'm thinking, I'm happy to do that. But I also think what issues that we've got a lot of good work. I would like to add some things from this morning that I see that our commission, things that would be, that we should be driving or that we're going to be taking action on that should be integrated into this as well. So I'm happy to take that. And
So,
go ahead.
so I just want to say, my understanding is that the CO's office is helping to do that connection already. So some of that might be, so we'll get some more details on this, but that might be in progress already. Okay.
Like I say, just from my brain organization, it's hard for me. I think it's complicated. Like, here's what the county is doing, and then we have something separate. So I'm wanting to see, like, how do they integrate? How do we support the implementation of the plan? And how are we driving the things that are commission specific? So as a follow-up, I will have some things that I'm going to pull out of the plan and integrate into here.
So
Because I'm just.
I appreciate this. I think at some point we need to just move forward, and this is something that has gone through about 5 iterations with a lot of work from staff, with multiple extended deadlines for all of us to give our input and feedback, and it continues to just lag. I don't think this is ever to say what's on here is the be-all, end-all of what the board does. I think these are things that were critical to board members to make sure are on the calendar, and it is to address what was an ongoing comment about difficulty in getting board member topics onto agendas. So yes, we can have all of those other pieces, and we need to stop adding to this and say this is what we're doing and it's time to move forward, knowing that it will never be a complete picture of everything we have to do as a board.
Yeah, and maybe this is just a different perception of what a work plan is, because for me, like, a work plan just evolves, like, issues emerge. And so it's not I think this is so great, frankly, because we haven't had that in the past, so.
We haven't even said yes to this yet, though. That's where I'm getting at, is like, at some point, we need to say yes to something so staff can start putting it in the agenda, and we can always continue to add, but we're stuck in the adding stage.
So I guess my assumption was that many of these things are already, like, calendared.
Yes?
Yeah, I mean, they've been happening, which is great. So that's what my assumption was, is like, this isn't like we have to wait to say, like, yes. It's like, I viewed these things were like being calendared.
Yeah, I think like some of the things we have, like, my office has been tracking, the CO's office has been tracking like all the budget notes, for instance, to making sure that we've got time. But the things that are coming out of different offices that are on here probably are not fully calendared yet. I think that at one point, there was a desire to have a work plan that we would even potentially vote on, along with a calendar, which I would love to, in January, present, like, have a calendar for the next year. The calendar not being like what we're going to do at every meeting, but just like when we're going to be having the meetings throughout the year for planning purposes. And I think that was something that you had actually talked about, Commissioner. So, I mean, I think that's fine to do. I'm looking at, but I do think that the strategic plan and the board work plan need to have some overlap, because hopefully the board is, has priorities and interest in what's in the strategic plan. But this board is also where we create policy and bring new ideas that may not be baked into an operational strategic plan. And so there needs to be space for that. So even with the connection to the strategic plan, I hope that there's connections, but there may not be, because it might be a new idea or something that's more emergent that's there. So and I think that there needs to be some connection, but I don't think it's a one-to-one match.
Absolutely, because we, as I said, that we have some things that are just uniquely the commission's work, and also some things that we do, like, hey, this is the role we have. Like, for example, if this is the work plan, I would like to have quarterly, just like updates on the strategic plan, just so that we're sort of seeing the progress and understanding whatever the challenges are, because I think that gets us then centered on the core work of the county, and then we get the budget. So that would be a suggestion I would have. Also, I would want to come back. We have been doing some like reset of LIPSIC. And I will want to drop some items in here that will come out of LIPSIC. I mean, for example, we've got the pretrial, but we have some other items as well. So I will flesh those out in discussion with the chair, and who's also on LIPSIC, and Commissioner Jones-Sixton, who's been attending. Question I have on the connect more people to long-term treatment and recovery. I am wondering about, and this is where like work plans being organic is like just what's happening at the administration with HUD and the changing of what they're going to be funding in the upcoming discussion we're having. What sort of work we need to do around there, because they're going to be focused less on, it's my understanding from my briefing, is less on permanent supportive housing and more on recovery. So like, how does that, like, do we have a role? And it may be like, the Commission doesn't have.
I think that's more urgent than a work plan. The timeline on that NOFO is extremely short. It's like January, so I think we should be hopefully digging into that more sooner than putting something on here.
Yeah, and just a question is like, is there a longer term, like, hey, we're gonna, at least through this administration, need to like rethink how we structure the relationships? That's just a question. They increase access and utilization of sobering withdrawal management and treatment. I think this is, as we've got several work sessions scheduled, an ongoing discussion about deflection, that I'm going to want to like build out a little bit what the board work is on this. So that would be one thing in there.
Yeah, and so I will say, like, I think to Commissioner Singleton's point, like, this is kind of the broad strokes of what we want to be focused on over the year. There, of course, are going to be things that are coming up. Like, for instance, we have a HUD COC briefing coming up in just a couple of weeks, because it's timely, because we're going to have to put in the application, but two, just to give the lay of the land on what's happening. And I think like some of the details of like what is happening with Home Forward and some of these things, like we can add some of those specifics into some of these larger topics that we have here as well, and I think that will be helpful as we're putting together briefings on certain subjects of like, what are the things that touch on it that we want to make sure are covered. but I don't feel the need that we have to have every single thing captured in this work plan. Like, I think we need to be able to use this to help plan out what our time is going to look like, but still have capacity to be adding things as they come in.
So the due dates that are here, those are more related to budget notes? And then just for, is it, in terms of a tool, then how do things get, how do we get things sequenced out?
So that was the primary question for today, was timing, and I don't think it has to be as specific as the dates. If it's like, spring, fall, whatever, before budget, which I hope we don't try to do everything before the budget, but just any timing that comes up for you, that we can capture that today.
I've got some like just minor, like, a date that do you want,
For like minor stuff, do you want me to just like turn that in, or do you want me just to go over it right now?
I think the idea, I'm getting a thumbs up.
Yes, now, let's do it, okay. It's literally just like, under the adult addictions treatment continuum, I'd love to be added to that D1. And with the goal would be both the study and a implementation plan. The next one, I'm trying to follow the pages, 4, under board proceedings and processes, I've got D1, D4 in January, bringing forward a revised board rules, which is a resolution. I have D3, D1. I'm sorry, page 4 under good governance.
Okay.
Bottom one, board proceedings and processes. And then I've got D3, D1, office of board clerk, also a resolution, probably similar time frame, maybe February. I'm throwing that out there. Page 5, very last one. I would add under like topics, emergency management, as well as sustainability. And then D1, D2 has a resolution with the goal after the resolution of an ordinance related to CEI Hub. And then I think it's mentioned.
Oh, on the bottom of page 5?
Yeah.
Page 5, okay.
And then, I would love to also be part of the very last thing on page 6, which is the loan fur. That's my notes.
Okay, great. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about today was like, so having, for instance, like an ordinance in January, like what do we want to agree on as a board in terms of what we need in order to like feel comfortable voting on an ordinance or a rule? Or like, do we need to have a briefing beforehand? Do we want to have a briefing and a work session? Do we want to do a combo package before the ordinance is brought forward? Because that's really going to be key, I think, as we're looking at like, all of us feeling comfortable with voting on something. Like, what do we need to have done either publicly or just for our own things to be ready to vote? Because what we've had in the past is like an ordinance, and then we have a lot of conversation like on the ordinance when it's also, we're being asked to vote on that same day. And I think it works best when we've had space for briefings and work sessions before that.
Yeah, I definitely, I think it depends on the topic, whether it's a briefing or work session. I don't want to say I feel like I need both all the time. I also think that work sessions can include a bit of briefing. The idea is to get away from it being an hour presentation and then 10 minutes to talk. So I think some of it is how we structure work sessions, that it can be a little bit more of a combo platter. So I like that before we're asked to vote, because I don't like trying to wordsmith at the dais, and I always miss something that I'm like, Jenny, please help me on what I'm supposed to say. And I think, and I'll follow up just because you mentioned something coming forward about board rules, and I thought we were doing another work session, so I just want to kind of check in and make sure that we've got some space to kind of catch back up from where we left off. Because I don't think we finished last time.
No, and we've been planning to do some, like a work
Okay.
session in January, as we've been talking about the, just like looking out to 26. And I can just say, I think we had talked about the 29th, but that might be too late, I don't know. So Commissioner Moore, you and I can talk about that.
And thank you for giving the timing on things. That's really helpful.
We just have a few minutes left. Yep.
Okay, so I'm not seeing this somewhere, but I'm sure it's on here for all of the budget notes or budget, this is also budget amendments, but we have the economic landscape. And maybe I'm just missing where it is, but where is it?
Mike's right here, but I was like, where? So I'm not seeing it, so I want to drop that in. I will send it over. I'm going to go back to page 1, the increased access and utilization of sobering withdrawal management and treatment. It just has, department offices. It just has HD, I would add D3, just given our 2 years of work on that topic. On behavioral health, I want to look through somewhere and just like this focus on the gap again. And because I think that is where, at the high level, a place where the commission as the public health, the Board of Public Health should be weighing in.
I have a question about process related to that. If we're interested in diving into like a body of work, the end product might be like, we're moving forward with these specific things. Do we need to bring something forward in a work session to be like, is there consensus to go forward on, because that's staff time. I mean, you can't do that work without asking the people who are implementing programs like, hey, what's going on? So what would be the process if we were, like on here, we definitely talk about like an interest in really digging into our local behavioral health. Do we just all say, yeah, who's interested, go do it? Or do we need to have a conversation about what we collectively want to focus on and then determine like, okay, these offices want to work with this department? Like, I don't know the process for like bigger projects.
So I think it depends on if you want to have a process that is like external folks that you're bringing together, or if it requires some participation by county staff. So participation by county staff, that should be like come through my office and the COO's office to make sure that we are, that we've checked in with departments and there's capacity to do that and what the time is, because obviously we have 6,000 employees who are all running running this government and have things that they're doing. So I think that like if it's something that's like it's a project and it's going to take staff time, then like let's have that conversation from an administration standpoint. I think if it's a policy area or an area of interest that you're interested in as a commissioner, and it's like bring together some of our providers, and like that's a table you can convene like at your however you'd like to do that, through your office.
It's a combo.
Yeah. So
I just don't know if we as a body wanted to like really obviously I don't think this is a one-year project, but like if we decide collectively over the next several years we want to try to address major gaps, that is like a both.
Yeah, and I think then that because that would be like a significant part of time, I think the departments would really appreciate having that as part of like a budget proposal. So, like as part of it, so that they can be thinking about like how they need to be resourcing something like that from a staffing perspective and a time management perspective. And it's something that like, if there are resources that are needed, we've done that. I know not everything falls in the budget timeline, but I think that's always the best way to do it. Like we did some, I always go back to Preschool for All, but like we did some like preliminary meetings and stuff to like help get ready. But ultimately what those preliminary meetings did was leading to a budget ask of like $100,000 so we could bring together the stakeholder committee, which was internal people and external people. And then it could be facilitated and it had more resource around it. So something like that.
So this is a question, and maybe it's not an add to the work plan, but there's a general category, the North Star, Multnomah County and its residents benefit from the SHS program. I'm just wondering about how we integrate, like what Metro is doing right now with what we think about our work plan, and whether have it covered here, just sort of their proposed changes and how we are thinking about this both in the short and medium term. Again, I don't know that I have a change. I'm just wanting to that could be have a big impact on us or a big body of work. So just raise that. Under the provide youth services programming that intervene and prevent or increase, and I did look back on my old notes that I put on the last time we had a discussion, and these are all issues that I've raised, so I just want to raise them again to make sure that they're in. But we're going to have probably some things from LIPSIC to add in there, and I will send those to you, Commissioner Singleton. I'm going to make the same note about increasing access to childcare. I don't know if that's the one place where we have universal preschool, but again, I want to incorporate longer-term safety and quality. Sorry, I'm not normally a front and back, as you all might know. Promoting more access and education around the budget process. I raised recently this making our administrative rules and guidance transparent to the broader public. Something, and then also performance, the performance audit implementation and recommendations. The public safety, the department's offices, it has the sheriff's office and the chair, and I'd like to be added to that as the co-chair of LIPSIC. And again, I'll work with the chair in pulling a couple things out that may be county commission specific from LIPSIC's sort of work plan, because LIPSIC's, for what it's worth, is doing a similar process of creating a work plan. So this is all going to hopefully integrate and measure up. And again, I don't see the economic development piece, but I feel, as I mentioned before, continuing to focus on the sort of economic indicators that are going to have huge impacts on our ability to provide services, having a sort of regular check-ins on where we are and what role, and I don't believe this is always a specific county role, but the county does have some role in sort of the economic vitality of the region, and so how are we incorporating that in our work? And it may come out of the economic landscaping that we're doing.
Okay. I have a hard stop. So any final thoughts? Otherwise, please, anything, so I know people have been taking notes. If there were very specific things that you mentioned that you want to make sure gets captured exactly how you said it, please send those to my office and Commissioner Singleton's office. And then we will kind of circle back. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you again to Sarah, Ryan, and Quinn for all of the work on this. And Commissioner Singleton, thank you for your leadership in corralling all of this. It's been a long process, but I feel like we're super close. Okay, that concludes our meeting for today. The county will conduct a proclamation signing ceremony tomorrow, December 3rd, from noon to 1 p.m. in the boardroom. A quorum of Multnomah County Board of Commissioners will attend, and we hope you consider attending virtually or in person. There being no further business, we are adjourned.